Where? We're going to be talking about that as well, Matt.
But right now we want to go back over to the Metropolitan AME Church, where the First Family is about to arrive for a pre-inaugural church service, just as they did 4 years ago. Jamie Gangel is there. Jamie, good morning. Are we running a little bit behind schedule?
We are on Clinton time this morning, Matt.
Al, thanks very much. It's 8:11. After the election, President Clinton admitted to having read one book about second terms. That book, Trial and Triumph, Presidential Power in the Second Term, was written by amateur historian and real estate broker Alfred Zacher of Fort Wayne, Indiana. Mr. Zacher, good morning to you.
Good morning, Matt.
You said that only, good to have you here. You said that only 6 presidents actually had successful second terms. You also say the true character of a president comes out in the second term. Why is that?
Well, of course, by the second term, the events build. Congress, by the second term, has figured out who this president is. They try throughout history, from George Washington's time, to sort of build an equal status on the part of the Congress with the president, and it becomes a challenge.
If it is the true character of the president, many Republicans think that that true character will be a liberal, a very liberal character. Do you think that's the case?
Well, there's certainly no evidence of that in terms of his behavior during the last year. And in fact, it's one of the comments in my book. He had to move to the center. He has. And there's every evidence that the liberal bent will not be characteristic of his second term.
You mentioned Congress a second ago, and you say that it does have an awful lot to do with how successful a president will be, how he can lead Congress. Based on his performance in the past, how successful can he hope to be in the next 4 years?
Well, of course, the real challenge is whether or not he picks up on the issues which face the nation, the problems of entitlements, of debt, of deficit, of education. How truly will he challenge these? Will he meet them head-on, or will he compromise so significantly that there's no true resolution of the problem?
Also here to lend his perspective to this situation is one of President Clinton's political advisors, James Carswell. Nice to see you, James.
Good morning. Nice to be here.
Hey, what do you think his legacy will be, and what does he want it to be?
Well, I think his legacy already is. I mean, if you look at Washington, you look at this country today as opposed to 4 years ago, you have a much, much lower deficit. You have less crime. You have less teenage pregnancy. You have higher test scores. So I think I think he would look back and say, I have a record to build on, not a record to sit on. And I think he wants to keep moving the country in that direction. I think he wants to continue down the path of deficit reduction. I think he wants to continue fighting crime. I think education is going to be a huge part of his second-term legacy. But I also think that, and he's saying this today, that he wants the country to come together. He wants to address the sort of spiritual, moral, and ethnic and racial divisions that we have in this country. So as we approach the next century, we cannot just be a more prosperous nation in terms of more jobs, that type of thing, a less deficit, but also a nation that's closer together than people.
Let's talk about a more personal legacy. He has very high popularity numbers right now, something around 60%, but still when you ask people about his character and trust, they say they don't completely trust him. I would imagine he doesn't want his legacy to be a good president you couldn't completely trust. Concrete terms, what can he do to change that in the second term?
I think that he has to continue to lead. I think all of this is a pack of foolishness. They've spent $40 million in 3.5 years on investigations, and now it's starting to dawn on people that there's nothing there. It's just a pack of foolishness. And I think what the president needs to do is go out today, give an inspiring speech, which I suspect that he will, lay out what he wants to do in the State of the Union, and do what he always has done, and that's work as hard as he possibly can and let all this foolishness take its own course, because ultimately there's nothing there and people are starting to see that.
Mr. Zacher, compare Bill Clinton to some presidents in history and their second terms. What is the one pitfall Bill Clinton has to avoid in the next 4 years?
Well, cooperating with Congress is the most important issue. He has to communicate his positions very clearly and firmly. Grover Cleveland, during the Victorian era, was accused of, and acknowledged the fact that he fathered an illegitimate child. Clinton has to somehow get through all these scandals and get on with his legislative agenda in a way that's truly effective. For him to be for him to have a legacy, he somehow or other has to initiate legislation that has true impact on the future of the country.
James Carville, 2 things real quickly. Do you see a different role for Hillary Rodham Clinton in this term?
I think that, you know, maybe, I don't know. She's always been influential with the president. I suspect, in fact, I know that's going to continue. She may take 1 or 2 issues and be sort of more involved with that. I don't know. I think it'd be sort of an evolving thing, but she'll do whatever she can to help the president.
And secondly, how much effort does Bill Clinton put into in these next 4 years getting Al Gore elected in the year 2000?
Well, I suspect that, like anybody else, I think that the vice president has served the president faithfully, loyally, and more than competently. And I'm sure, like anybody else, when he's had someone who's been as good a vice president as that, he probably would like to see him be president. And I think it's something that he'd like, but I don't think he's going to be consumed. But I think both he and the vice president know the best thing they can do for the year 2000 is, you know, bust the you-know-whats in the next 4 years.
Well, let's take that as a good way to end. Mr. Carville, Mr. Zacher, thank you both for joining us.
Thank you very much.